The Spirit of Christmas with Sylvia Weatherspoon.
Well, who knew Mrs. Claus has a home in Louisiana? In fact, she invited me there to talk about her family legacy, which is the spirit of Christmas. To speak with Mrs. Claus, I had to travel north, not as far as the North Pole, actually about an hour north of Baton Rouge to a community called Wakefield in West Feliciana. This is the place, a 200-acre family farm called Edgewood, the original home built in 1890. Okay, let's fast forward to present day, where we meet Lauren Pourciau and her fascinating story about how her grandmother became Mrs. Claus.
My grandparents moved to St. Francisville in the 80s, and my grandmother was a drama teacher and loved costumes and loved dress up. And when she got up here, she found different ways to get involved, and she took on the role of Mrs. Claus, and it grew.
These are snapshots of her grandmother, Shirley Pourciau. Lauren called her Mimi. Mimi loved being Mrs. Claus.
They have breakfast with Santa, and she would go and read. That was her thing. She liked to sit and read, and she would read Louisiana Night Before Christmas, and there was one about a polar bear, and we all have copies of it.
The highlight for Mrs. Claus, was participating in the annual St. Francisville Christmas Parade, and Lauren was right there with her.
Every year we would ride with her as elves, or one year we were reindeer. Papa would watch the parade every year in front of the fire department. That was his landmark, because we were usually on an old fire truck. And there were years when the firemen hoisted my grandmother to the top of this fire truck, because by gosh, she was riding on it.
Safe to say, Mimi's Christmas spirit was infectious.
She started traditions for our family. We grew up in Baton Rouge, and every Christmas Eve we would go to their home in Jefferson Place, and they have a Santa Claus parade there. And I think that's where her Christmas spirit was born.
Mimi passed away 9 years ago.
She was the most cheerful, joyful person you would have ever met, and Christmas really was her thing. I was very close to my grandmother, and we were cleaning out her stuff, and I found all these different random pieces. She had this, and then she also wore a red apron that had Mrs. Claus painted on it, and the most elaborate thing. But I mean, when you're having Christmas in the country and you have a raccoon corduroy skirt, it's like meant to be.
And that is how Lauren became Mrs. Claus, following in her grandmother's footsteps. In fact, Lauren is even starting a new tradition. She had an especially good time with the children last year during St. Francisville's annual Christmas in the Country weekend at an event called Christmas Spirits.
I talked to the kids and I said, have y'all seen Santa? Because then you walk down the street and you can go in the homes and peep in windows of all the decorated homes. And they were like, we haven't seen Santa. We haven't seen Santa. The same group of kids came back, we found him, Mrs. Claus, he's over there.
And there she is, riding in the Christmas parade. I'm sure Mimi would be so proud. For Lauren Pourciau, the spirit of Christmas is about joy and happiness, time with family. Oh, and one more thing, a special greeting from Mrs. Claus.
Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you've had a great year and you've had a good time at school and you've sent your letters to Santa and you've been nice to your friends. And I hope you enjoy all of the time with your family at Christmas time.
By the way, distribution day for Sylvia's Toys is almost here. It happens this Saturday at the St. Vincent de Paul Dining Hall, 220 St. Vincent de Paul Drive. That's in Baton Rouge. It goes from 9 a.m. until about 11. The folks at St. Vincent de Paul tell me this is a banner year for donations to Sylvia's Toys. So thank you all so much for your generosity and support.